Hello and welcome to Soul to Soul Talks. I'm here with Mia Saenz and super excited to introduce her to you. Hello, Mia. Welcome.
Thank you, Bevan. I'm very excited too to be here because isn't that a great talk? Soul Talks, love it.
And the topic of yours today, I'm excited to learn more. Love changes the energy of your story.
It really does. A little example is when we heal ourselves through love, and love and God vibrate on the same level. So when we heal ourselves through our own divinity is when we can open up and live the life that we choose, that we want to create. And so I know we'll get more into that, but it's a very exciting topic, especially in today's world where people think there isn't hope, but there is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll introduce Mia first here. So Mia Saenz, is a love alchemist. As a third-generation metaphysical practitioner, Mia learned the wisdom of healing and prayer from her well-known grandmother. Mia is the self-love teacher for anyone who feels alone and yet dreams of knowing the joy of a love-soaked life. Through her work as a love teacher and coach, Mia has discovered the depth of love on all levels. Love truly is the gold the alchemists were seeking. Working through love changes the energy of your story and opens the connection to have all of life's purposes flow, which includes love, money, and abundance. Mia works with people whose desire is to grow in their spiritual path, building a concrete foundation in all areas of life. And Mia teaches love mastery and the spiritual elite with mystics and their natural gifts. And in addition, Mia is also a media host and the founder and editor-in-chief of BellaMia magazine, a transformational and holistic living well magazine that spreads the message to women that they're beautiful and more than enough. Welcome, Mia. Really glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to throw in that the magazine BellaMia is not about me. It's literally about the beautiful me, beautiful mind that we are to ourselves. And even looking at just the words BellaMia is your first induction into your self-love and your connection to self. So when you look at it, it's like, I'm beautiful. And then you read into the magazine. So there's a purpose and a point that was literally, I feel was a download from the divine on what to name the magazine even.
So what does the name mean?
Beautiful me, beautiful mind. It's Italian. Yeah. So it was crazy because when the idea to do a magazine first came to me as a media host, I've been in radio for 9 years. I've been doing online shows similar to this for at least 5 or 6. And so what's the next step? I'm also an author and a speaker. So what's the next step? My own magazine. And so the very cool thing about it is I didn't go about it as a coaching magazine to support me as a coach. I went about it as a full-fledged magazine to reach the masses. And that's what it did. It has 25,000 readership a week when we put out a new issue, when they come out. So it's about 100 to 125,000 a month, depending on a 4 or 5 week month. So it's really a very powerful magazine in the sense when you read it, that it's all dedicated to the holistic lifestyle of women and how to support them. And eventually there will be a Bello magazine as well, because men also want to have things focused in for them. So it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Great work.
Thank you.
So let's go into how love changes the energy of your story. How did you discover this?
Well, okay, so looking at me, you'd never know what my childhood was like. And although I am a third-generation practitioner, from my mother, it seemed to have skipped a gene more or less, and it went around through my aunts. I was raised metaphysical through my mom, besides my grandparents, but my mother was very dysfunctional, and there was a lot of physical, emotional, mental abuse, especially cast upon me, because so you can see that the energy has changed on my story. I'm not weeping about any of this stuff, you know. So I'm considered an illegitimate child. And so in the days that I was born, that was like, oh my God, both parents were married to other people. My father didn't have any children. My mother already had 3 above me. And so when I was born, I was, I looked different. I had different coloring. I had to deal with the things that an illegitimate child has to do until my parents finally were able to get together and get married, which was unusual. And it happened when I was 7 years old. So for the next almost 7 years, I got to live with my daddy. And I had him in my life before that, just not the same in the home every night. And he did pass away a week before my 14th birthday. So my mother used me as a ploy or a pawn for my dad, for his attention, his affection, his money, everything. So although I was this great little child, simply because I'm a great little child just like everybody else, I had a lot of things riding on top of me that stopped me, especially abuse. And so my abuse, I remember, started when I was 4, and I remember after a beating being locked in closets. So when I was in the closet, what I would do was I would talk to God. My grandmother taught me that God was my true father, mother. And so I remember being in there saying, and I don't know if it was 4 or 5, but I remember saying, you're my true father, mother. What is she? She's crazy, you know, things like that. And I would get messages and answers. And as a little girl on the playground in elementary school, I never tolerated bullies or anything. I never had them in my experience because I was, sorry, I was going to laugh and go back. I was the illegitimate child. Hell, nobody wanted to mess with me. No, I didn't have that experience in my being because I was very, I didn't put up with it on a personal level from anyone else. And so I would protect kids on the playground. If I saw kids being bullied, I'd go up and I'd stand in between them and say, what are you doing? And, you know, I would stop it. Was that my right place? I guess it was, because this is what I've done my entire life, is stand up for people who aren't able to stand up for themselves until they're actually able to grow their own wings and fly. And so it started as a very, very young child. And isn't it true how our experience, such as being illegitimate or this or that, is what developed me into loving what I do and to bring love to the forefront, you know, as my mission in life. So
it is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
My parents weren't married when they had me, and they also split up when I was 3. They never got married.
Yeah. That's hard. And so we can, depending on the era you were born, depending on the culture you're in, depending on the location of geographics. I mean, if I was in another country that was illegal, you know, my mother could have had her head cut off, right? And in this country, I'm sure that there was a lot of talk behind her back. So it just depends on where you are. And so no matter what, trauma is trauma. Disrespect, unkindness is unkindness. You know, it lowers us until we step out of that space into an empowered space. And that's all about our mindset and our setting new patterns and not believing the garbage that society has put upon us. It starts from the moment we're born. Our birth is our most traumatic experience in life. Our soul can't really take being squeezed through with the body through another body. I mean, it's so what happens is we forget our purpose here on earth. And so we spend our entire life trying to figure out what is the mystery called life, right? When really it's not a mystery at all. It's about looking inward and rediscovering and loving yourself to the depths. So I was so introverted and so, can't remember the word at the moment. It usually pops out, but I was so repressed. I was so repressed and so shy that I couldn't stand up and be a tall woman as I am today. And these effects of who I am literally shifted only about 10 years ago when I literally stepped into this life that I'm living right now. So through all that abuse, nobody really knew the inside workings of Mia or my family, because we didn't show it. We didn't talk about it. And once I did start talking about it, like people do for healing, I think I was in my 30s. I think I was in my 30s. And my kids were babies, and 9/11 had sparked it. So 9/11 had hit, and the PTSD from childhood came on so strong that I went back into, the psychoses of what PTS does to us. And that is, it takes us down under into depression and other things. So I had to climb out from there, and it took many, many years. Plus I had an accident in 2005 where boxes fell and hit me on the head, and I was in a wheelchair. So in 2008, doctors said, you're going to be dead in less than 2 years. You need to get your affairs in order. So I went home, looked at that whole thing. What did that look like for me? Scary stuff. You got little kids, it's kind of scary. You don't know what to do, where to go. Nobody teaches this stuff. I didn't know about coaches at all. And a couple months later, on my birthday, I made it the most significant moment of my life. And literally that's where I changed and shifted. I hadn't practiced self-love in probably 10 years since 9/11. Well, so 8 years, 7 years. And I didn't look in the mirror. I wore my hair in a ponytail. From the accident where I was hit on the head back here, I had such bad paralysis in my arms and legs that I wasn't able to take care of myself. I slept 20 hours a day. I was only up for a couple hours on 2 different stretches throughout the day. Couldn't take care of the kids, nothing. I'd sit there and I'd talk to them. And so that was my big deal, was connecting to my kids sitting on the couch. So on this glorious birthday that I had, the sun came into my room, and I thought, wow, it's so beautiful. This is my birthday. My mom, one of the good things my mom taught me was to honor my birthday. So I thought, how can I honor my birthday? And I thought, well, just begin with the connection of what you're feeling right now, that God is here with you in this presence, in this light that you're feeling. So I got up and I went out and I sat on the couch like I did every single day to look at my kids, because there wasn't much else I could do. And I hear this voice, and it says, you've been unhappy your whole life. What would it be like to be happy? Wow, that was a change. That was the beginning to the change of my life. Literally.
That's a great birthday present.
Yeah. And so I said, I don't know what to do. And I heard, you will examine your entire life. And I thought, oh, cool. So I started to think, well, okay, I'm going to go through the 5 pillars: spirituality, family, body, work, and home, and see how I could expand that out. And I could see myself, my saboteur, literally across the room, sitting on like a stool, going, you're going to be fine. We're going to ride this train out, and at the very last minute, you're not going to die. You're going to be fine. And I thought, wow, this is my birthday. This is a gift for me. So I pushed that away, and I enjoyed the process. Now, before I share it quickly, I want to share with you what consciousness means to me, and how you can, as the audience, can identify it for your own life. And I think Bevan and I talked about this before, but I explain it as this beautiful purple balloon I want. So I go to a party store and I see all these different colors. At least in Los Angeles, we have like maybe 50 colors of purple. So I pick out the one that I want. It's flat. It could be bent over, and I take it up to get blown up with helium. It's so beautiful. Then I take it home, and say an hour later, I decide, hey, I want to see what that balloon looks like now. I'm going to take out the helium. And so what's left in that balloon is it will never be flat again. It will never be bent over flat like it was pre-made. It has expansion. It has ripples. It has stretch marks. And so with that, that's the expression of consciousness. Once we expand our consciousness, it can never go back to its former state. So that was my glory and saving grace of understanding that what I was about to do, the experience I was about to embark on, would be my life-changing experience. And until I actually took it, which is called the Dream, Believe, Create, it's on my website. You guys can download all this stuff for free, because I don't believe in, I believe in sharing everything. So Dream, Believe, Create is about creating your life in the way that it's so glorious big that it excites you, that you believe you can create it. So you go out and create it. So once I saw my spirituality, which wasn't hard for me to change because I've always been a spiritual little girl, as you've heard, but I've always wanted to be a teacher and a lecturer and a speaker, just like my grandmother. And so, I broadened that out. And then my relationship with my husband, guess what? It wasn't even with my husband. I saw a man that is more like the man that I'm married to today. And so it's literally, I was opening up the possibilities greater and bigger than what I could even imagine. My body was nimble. I wasn't in the chair. I didn't have to use a cane in the house. I didn't hurt. My relationship with my family, my kids, it wasn't that they were different and greater. It's that I saw them as soul beings, as soul essences. Even younger than that, I decided that as a mom, I would treat my children as souls. And that really broke the humanity stereotype that we have about children. I knew that they would grow up to be fine, so I didn't put any stress on them about that. And they grew up to be amazing beings, just beautiful. And then my work. What did I want to do for work? Heck, I didn't know. I was a writer and I never published anything because I was too afraid. So I went out and I decided that I would be a published writer in a couple months. So as I declared all this to myself, the dreaming of it, the actual believing it was so magnificent, I had to have it. I could taste it, feel it, smell it, breathe it. And so I went out and I created it. And so I gave myself 4 months to January 1st, 2009 to actually get out of the chair, build my inner core, and start my life. So what that looked like was I just kept praying and asking, how do I heal myself? How do I find the way? And so everything came in. A neighbor was asking me how I was doing, and I'm like, I'm doing fabulous. And she's like, great, I'm the manager of Curves. You want a month free? And I'm like, yes, and people would, bring things or suggest things. It was almost like a potluck, it's like or a potpourri. And so my life became something beautiful. And even in that, it was crazy because I remember it was Christmas right before the New Year. And I said to my youngest son, I said, because when I made this declaration that I wanted to change my life, I said to him, I've seen something beautiful and I'm going to expand my life. I'm going to live. Okay, so this is where I get a little emotional. And I said to them, if this is the only gift I can give you, is a legacy of striving for what you want to attain it, even if I die in 2 years, then I've done my job. And how could a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old really understand that? But he's like, okay, Mama, I support you. I mean, it was so sweet. So then right before Christmas, the same thing happened. I had this huge influx of information. I was like, I'm going to be a published author in 2009. I'm going to be. My works are going to get published. And again, he's like, yay, Mom, I support you. And with just that little bit of love from him, it's so crazy because talk about manifestations and creating stuff. I didn't even seek out a publisher. They sought me out. They had heard my story. They knew I was a writer. I was referred by somebody else. And so in January, right after the New Year, they reached me. And for the first time, I went to the Library of Congress in May of 2009. I didn't seek them out. They sought me out. Now, I'm not saying just be still and idle. We have to take the human footsteps forward. But that was one of the biggest blessings of my life. So after I was published, I wanted to be a coach. And, I moved into the love field. So literally changing the energy of our story is about changing the energy of our story. I don't wake up miserable. I don't wake up hurting with my body. I don't wake up unhappy. I wake up loving, and I meditate and I pray and I am joyous. And, how can I serve? Literally, when I changed my life and I'd lost weight and got in shape and all this stuff so fast, within the first 6 weeks, I think I had lost something like 30 pounds. And my sister said, people don't lose weight this fast or get muscular or have body retention like you're doing, the memory of what I used to be like. And I said, I know. And I said, God is here is taking care of me, and I'm here to serve mankind. So with that declaration for humanity and myself, I stepped into this new life. So
oh, yeah.
why I so love, I mean, and you can see I am passionate about love, and about it all stems from ourself first, literally. It has to come from within. And we're not taught that. So we have to teach ourselves how to be love in order to love. In order to love others and find what's called universal love, we have to first discover all the self-love stuff, which opens us up. Can I jump ahead? Can I just keep going? I'm so excited here. Which literally opens us up. It's almost like cracking this human shell when we discover self-love on a divine level. It's like, I call it like cracking open, and our soul essence just flies out. And it's allowed to do its purpose of what it's meant to do. We're
That's
no
awesome.
longer, we're no longer covering ourselves up. We're just like, yay, give me life, you know? So it's
Can we go more into it? So like the unexamined life is not worth living, and that's what you had before, but then you're like, you got the message to look back over your life. So then what did you do there, right?
Well, I tell you, Bevan, I meditate almost every night out on my front porch or just in the stillness so I can be by myself. Do I go out to dinner with friends and family? Absolutely. Do I have, go out to concerts and fun stuff? Yes. But I make sure that I have at least 4 nights of grounding myself where I do constant. My favorite thing is self-examination. You can call me vain if you want. It's not about my looks. It's about what's inside. How am I happier? Am I expanding? What's going on? How's my self-responsibility? How's my self-love? What am I giving to mankind? How am I helping my family? How am I helping my friends? Am I being a good person? Now, not very many people do this. So I want to share with you a few things that will get you in that direction. So 1, create a process of your day. Make it a beautiful ritual if you like, but every day I wake up, I meditate, I go and I work out on one of my machines in the garage. I go upstairs, I get ready for my day, I do what I have to do. I start doing my treatments for my clients, and then because I'm a metaphysical practitioner, and then I get on with both my love clients and or my business clients, because I've been in business for 35 years since I was 18 years old. So, wow. Yeah, I know I don't look like it, do I? So the point is that we can grow such an amazing life just by being who we are. Age has no reference in humanity. It's about the soul essence of who we are. And so do the love work. It's all on my site. I do the mirror work that I recommend, and there's a 3-part video series. It's free to you guys. Watch it, download it, and experience 1, the Dream, Believe, Create, which I just went through briefly about going through the different elements and how I could expand out. And I dream big, so I dreamt so big that I couldn't go backwards at all. And I always say dream big. The bigger you dream, the more you can reach for, the more you can bring in and attain. You're opening your consciousness. Here's a quick example. When my children were little, I was a firm believer that they needed to be in museums and have beautiful music from the time they were born. Once they popped out of me, boom. I don't care if they, my mother used to say, why are you doing this? Why do you take them to museums? Why do you have them listening to this music? It's because it grew their brain. It grew their expansion. They have an affinity for everything, for music, for art, for people, for cultures. This is what life is about. It's about connecting deeply to each other. You live half the time in one part of the world and half the time in another. You know, Bevan, for sure, that you have to have that diversity in order to understand humanity, in order to understand love more. So the mirror work that's on there. So first, the Dream, Believe, Create. Create what you want. Do the mirror work. Soul has no name. We've been here many times. So don't say, I love you, Mia. You would say, I love you. And you're looking in the mirror and you're actually saying, I love you. Now, this can give you a very adverse reaction at first, depending on how much self-growth work you've done. The first time I did it, I was 24 years old. And I had asked in prayer, how do I heal myself? And so that was the first thing that came through. Apparently, many do it, and that's okay. It's beautiful. We all have our own slightly different methods. So I ask you to take a notebook and write down every experience that you have. You're angry, you're hateful at yourself, fine, write it down, because you're going to see a change. And then what the notebook does is it's our hindsight. We can look back over our path, and then we begin to understand ourselves. We understand our journey. We understand our growth. And then also, if there's a moment in time where you're accelerating forward and growing on an upward level, and then all of a sudden you feel like you've fallen and you can't get up, guess what? That's just a deep pocket. In my book that's for free for you guys, also on my site, there's certain methods on how to get out of it. One of them is the dream belief crate. One of them is the mirror work. We also do it for the blind and the deaf. I teach that too. And then also deep pockets, how to get out of falling backwards. We don't want to stay there, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. We want to be up and out immediate. So you pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you move on, but there's techniques in how to do that. It's just not like, well, so you do it. There's actually paths in which to take. And then the inner child meditation process that I'm known for. If you want to buy my album, great, it's on there. There's a couple albums for sale on my site. But if you want it, you can write me, and I send it all the time to people. My team sends it out as a freebie for people, because it's important for people to understand that they can heal with love, the depths within. So what that looks like is I take you through this process down and relaxed. You're listening to my voice. And I did one for our Holistic Chamber of Commerce in Santa Monica last Tuesday. It was so super cool because they're like, you've got this great voice. It just makes me go down and relax. So I take you in, and this place that I take you to is your own sanctuary. It's nobody else's, and nobody belongs there but you and the little you. And so as I introduce you to that beautiful little being, you're going to love and nurture that child. You're going to bring that child into your lap, and you're going to love it. And what comes out of that child, starting at the age of 3, we go from 3 and we work 3, 4, 5, 6. We start with the odd years, because in our culture in the United States and English-speaking countries, as your primary language, we normally start things at 3. We go to nursery school, then at 5, the odd years, and we go to kindergarten, and then, so like that. So it really does work in this culture, and I know it works in other cultures too. So it's really valuable to love that little child and to heal each stage along the way. If you've had a lot of trauma, I talk about drawing a timeline, so that you're aware when you go into this meditational process that you can heal things in there very quickly. So when you love that little child in there and you're supporting her. So for me, I had physical abuse from my mom for 6 or 5 years. I was molested by my Girl Scout leader's husband starting at age 6 until I could push him away. I was raped, and I had a stalker in high school. So for me, when I created this for myself years ago in my healing process, I literally went in and loved me through each of the stories, each of the tales. We're not lying. We're not changing the energy of our story by lying, by rewriting it. What we're doing is we're nullifying the victimization of it and loving that little being to know that she was never out of your love, God's love, or any love, or he. So it works for both male and female. And it's really important to understand the depths of who you are and love that little child. And then I also take you through leaving that child so that they feel secure, so you can come back out of the process and go for a whole nother week having this integrate into your system. Because the reason we do certain processes and allow them to settle in is there's an integration that's needed within us. So something may not come up for you until, say, day 5, and then you're like, bingo, that's why I did that. So you don't want to over inundate yourself. Weekly is wonderful. Does this take a long time? It can. So understand that the journey of you is a lifetime. It's not a quick fix. I have so many people that come through my doors working with me, especially group coaching and stuff, because I do group and I also do private. And so a lot of the group people are like, I gotta be through. I gotta be through. And I'm like, stop. You're not a racehorse. Calm down.
You gotta have patience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's literally, the reason is that integration of our psyche. So our subconscious, I call this steel trap. Our subconscious, which so loves us and wants us to have everything great, will not let go of information that makes sense to it. This is why people keep repeating patterns. So we need to implement new patterns into our conscious awareness, and then allow our subconscious to have that become part of its being, so that the conscious element becomes part of the subconscious, so that we are working through things within ourselves on a glorious state. We're not being dragged back down that dark hole, because our subconscious will say, this is very interesting. Now, I've been working on body love and self-love my entire life, right? So recently, for the last year or two, I've been on this physical journey of food and eating and transforming who I am to be a healthier being, a longer lasting individual to support humanity. And so the other night, I woke up after eating some kind of, it was Thanksgiving, from eating something that normally I wouldn't be eating, because I eat very crazy, like no sugar, no wheat, no dairy, almost vegan. The meat, if I do eat meat, has to be very clean. So I woke up with a negative thought, and instead of persecuting myself, like, yes, sometimes I do too, until I hop on it when I wake up and go, wait a minute, what are you thinking? The message that came to me was, that's not congruent to the woman that you are. So I was like, wow. Oh yeah, I think it was alcohol. I think I had a martini or something, and it kind of threw me over. And so it was very interesting that now my subconscious, and yes, it works on other things faster, but now my subconscious is catching up with a more loving side of communication and talk with me. Instead of slamming me, like I said, I'm human too. And so there are many times when I would wake up feeling like, oh my gosh, I did this or that wasn't good, especially regarding my body or what I put in my body to fuel my face or my mouth to fuel my body. So when we do that and we understand that it's okay, we surrender. It's called surrendering. So when we surrender, what we're doing is we're relaxing into the process of what there is, so that the knowledge can really be absorbed into us. So generally, people think that surrendering at times is about surrendering under God. So in that space of divinity, we are surrendering to the divine, because we are divine beings. As infinite spiritual beings, we are more powerful than anything on the planet, in the universe, literally, because we are of the highest, we're of the God energy. So when you mix that with this beautiful human form, what you have is magnificence. And most people don't talk about how magnificent you are. And I get up on stage, the first thing I do is I say, hi, I'm Mia Saenz, and it's wonderful to be here. I have something to share with you that you've probably never heard before. So I want you to relax, and I want you to absorb it. And I want you to understand that you're magnificent, and that you're deeply loved, and you're not alone. So these are the things that I understood in my transformation that were holding me back. After 9/11, when I told you guys I cracked like a walnut there, I probably didn't state it like that, but my PTSD came up and I literally cracked open. I was vulnerable, I was raw, I was depressed, I was crying. Bipolar came up. I had never been bipolar before. So I was in a facility for 5 weeks. Greatest thing that ever happened to me. It was out in Arizona, where a lot of celebrities and diplomats go, and it was a beautiful opportunity. My husband had great insurance. My husband at the time had great insurance, so it was fabulous. What I learned were early shamanic ways, out in the desert drumming and things like that, but that didn't happen until like the 4th and 5th week. But every single day, people were in there for alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sex abuse, gambling, all that stuff. I was in there for depression. I was like again, the odd man out, dang it. So every day, the director of the entire facility, so the head, psychiatrist, she would come into our group coaching, group therapy sessions, and she would say, Mia, do you understand you're magnificent? And I would say to her, as this little love person that I was, but we're all magnificent. So what I was doing, one, I was bringing everybody in like I do, but two, I wasn't identifying that I was magnificent, that I even had the ability to be magnificent. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't, that whole visceral experience, I didn't understand. It took me 2 more years to understand the word magnificence. And so that's why it's so important for me to share with people how magnificent they are, how amazing, how glorious. So this work really does. It elevates who you are.
Awesome. That's
Woo!
about how much time we have today. I don't want to take up more of your
Yeah.
time. You got to get ready for the next thing.
Yes.
I know you can keep going for hours probably.
And you're so sweet. I looked over at the clock and I'm like, we talked about 30 minutes and now we're
Yeah.
into like close to 40. Wow, that went fast. See, when something is beautiful and pure, it flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just let you keep going because
Thank you, honey.
it is beautiful.
Yeah.
So do you have any free gifts for our audience?
I do.
Yeah.
So the main free gift I have is Mirror Mirror, a step-by-step guide to a life that loves you back. And that's my book. It's like 38 pages of an ebook with processes. Now the big book, Mirror Mirror, Self-Reflection, will be out later in the year, but in the next year. And it's that plus more. So enjoy it. There's a ton of stuff. I treat my website like a resource site. So go enjoy it, look around, download whatever you like. Again, if I mention in any of my interviews, like on there or anything, that I have something for you and you want it, simply write me and ask me. You have questions, simply write me and ask me. My door is always open. My heart is always open. So.
Oh, and you also mentioned Spirit Life CD.
Oh, yes. So if you want that, you have to write me for that. I don't think, or actually I'll see if I can get it to Bevan in the next 24 hours so that he has it. So it's I think we saw it on the site for $29, but I'm going to gift it to you guys. So you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. It has beautiful things like contentment. People used to ask me what it was like for God to love us. And so I went into the studio and I recorded this about your magnificence and how brilliant you are. And people use it for their morning rituals sometimes. And then there's one called the Inner Child Meditation Process. You just heard about it earlier. And then there's restful intentions, how to sleep. If you have sleep apnea, if you have insomnia, all the ways through to pre-record ourselves for a happy day the next day. And then the last one is great. It's called grounding, and it's literally about grounding ourselves and finding that calmness, so that if you're stressed out when you're driving, pull over to the side of the road. You'll remember once you listen to grounding, you can bring it back up within yourself within a few moments. Be in the state of grace. Be in your state of grace. It's there for you. It just takes practice. And one more quick thing. Practice, because people say, oh my gosh, this is too hard. It's not too hard. If you look at any football player, ballerina, musician, pianist, anyone, they had to practice for years. The reason I'm at the level I am, or the place I am of sharing all this stuff with people, is because I practiced. I love it. So fall in love with you and practice. Give yourself the biggest gift you could ever give anyone. Give it to yourself, and that is your own self-love, which is your divine connection.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
For humanity. And also, I love that your website at the bottom, it says powered by love.
Yes, on my site. Isn't that great?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. If you're open to it, I look forward to having you on again. And
that would be lovely.
We'll talk in the future.
It would be lovely. Thank you. And thank you all for listening. It was awesome.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Have a wonderful day. Have a great day, everyone.